welcome to Stretford Paddock. We have just seen Manchester United beat Perth in their first pre-season game. 2-0, goals from Garner and a goal from Rashford as well. Omar, Abdul, Damien as well. We were here for the entire game. We did a watch-along, and now we're time to review it. So, first things first, general feeling of the game, Omar. I mean, how did you feel it went?
I mean, like, we controlled the game massively, I think. At Perth Glory, I know they were missing the absence of Diego Castro, which seemed to limit their creativity. But other than that, I thought first half, we weren't clinical enough. I mean, Anthony Martial, I don't know what you guys think, but I didn't think he was clinical enough. But as soon as Rashford came on, brilliant finish, as you guys would probably agree. And then Garner with another brilliant finish as well. And I think it was quite a cruise game.
I think I agree with Omar. I think we sort of kept them in their own half. We controlled the game in the first half. We did miss someone like Mason Greenwood for me, who is going to pick the ball in and actually drive into that box. I think there was a lot of movement going in and around the box. Daniel James off the ball was very impressive for me. He was hitting either flanks as well with his runs. I did want to see Paul Pogba on the pitch around the same time, but we could see that in other games. But for today, in that first half for me, you know, it was impressive in terms of the runs off the ball. Directness was a lot better in the second half because of the likes of Mason Greenwood.
Damien, do you agree?
Yeah, well, first half, Daniel James, I think, far and above everyone else in that field. I think he was able to show what we've really been missing in that final third. He was able to put the balls into the box. I think what was missing was a clinical finish in that first. At pretty much whenever Dan James went forward, I was positive. I was excited to see what would happen. I think my only negative from the first half, and this is something that we're going to have to look into going forward, but Nemanja Matic, for me, he's not keeping up to pace with anybody on the field. I mean, Perth players were outdoing him. Anytime he touched the ball, personally, I thought he was going to lose it straight away.
Yeah.
And the second half improved a lot more. Obviously, we got the 2 goals. Rashford and Garner. Is Garner left-footed as well?
Yeah,
no.
We got the Tinder message.
Yeah, Garner's left-footed as well.
And so,
no, I don't think so.
I thought he was.
Garner's right-footed. I'm pretty sure. I'm certain he's right-footed.
He's dig.
Unless he's been spraying them balls in his week before, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah,
some of the passes.
So there was the one Seb just mentioned, a little negative thing there. Maybe we should just get any negative thoughts out of our head before we talk about the positives and what's to come. Was there anything else on whether you thought that could be changed?
I think in the middle of the park, you can clearly see that. I agree with Damien that Nemanja Matic was very slow with the things we were trying to do in terms of pressing, being really offensive. For example, like when Matic got the ball, there was times where he would look sluggish in possession. And then as soon as Scott McTominay came on in the second half, we looked more fluid in our essential part. And even with Paul Pogba was... I think you'd all agree that Paul Pogba is a massive bonus for Manchester United, and that game kind of solidified it massively. What remains to be seen, though, is whether the board will back Solskjaer and maybe create a partnership with Pogba and then another midfielder. But certainly, I think you can kind of see that we definitely need a bit more creativity in that midfield. I mean, Lingard, I don't know what you thought of Lingard in the number 10. What did you think?
In the first half, I thought he was direct. I think you need to find that balance. We had Daniel James, who's good off the ball, and like I said, he needed that long pass into him, which Ashley Young did provide at times. But when he switched the flanks, he didn't really get it. Thought we needed maybe a Gomez alongside Lingard, because I think you need to have a bit of a balance. If you have a direct player, you need someone who's going to come into the middle and actually, create and, it's always good to be good off the ball, but you can't have the same sort of profile of player across that attacking line.
Yeah, Damien, you said that there was a bit of struggle there with Matic, but did you like McTominay when he came on in the second half?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there was a massive improvement. Obviously, I think, like I was saying about Matic, anything else would have been an improvement from what he was playing. But I think what was really most impressive for me was seeing how United were able to link up plays from opposite side of the field. I mean, we saw Ashley Young crossing the ball from one side of the pitch to the other. Smalling was doing
that as well. Yeah. You were surprised by that, remember?
Yeah, I'd never seen him pull that off in my lifetime.
And I think that was one of the important key areas in United's play. They managed to keep possession of the ball much better compared to what we saw last season. And there was one balance of play where we were like Perth Glory were in attack, and then we got the ball, and then suddenly we looked calm and composed when we were playing. We never rushed, we never panicked, and you can even see that in the oppositional area when we had the ball. We never like panicked to cross it at all. We were passing it left, right, and centre. I thought there was a few positive signs from United.
Yeah, I think if any United fans haven't watched the game, we're trying to summarise them what actually the game was like for United's point of view. It was a lot of control and a lot of high pressing and a lot of creative play. It was just the final third where the ball just didn't seem to end up in the back of the net. If it was people just passing the ball inside the box and not taking the shots on, we saw that change a bit with Greenwood in the second half. He did get the ball and he put a lot of shots to the goalkeeper. Someone who went wide, he could have easily got himself on the score sheet. Do you think that is what was missing, just the person to pick up the ball and have that dig on goal?
I think we did miss that, and I think sort of Mason Greenwood did end up bringing that sort of on a pitch. I think we threaded through them a bit more, if you agree, in the second half. There wasn't that enough penetration sort of in the middle of the park. Everything was sort of going around it a bit more, and I think Mason Greenwood showed that confidence. And Angel Gomez, the way he was picking up those positions and then, moving the ball around between him, Pogba and Mata as well. I think everyone understood that role in the second half, whereas the first half felt like Matic ended up with the ball in positions he didn't really want him to, and he was so slow sometimes. I just can't see Matic start ahead of McTominay for me. I just can't.
So if you didn't watch the game, or if you did, the game sort of, the first half was one team, and the second half, Ollie changed his entire squad. So we were going to go through a bit of a man of the match, where you pick your first half man of the match, and then obviously the whole team changed, so you pick your second half man of the match. We'll go to, I'm sure some of you will agree on it, so we'll go to Omar, who wants to go first.
I think most of you will agree that Dan James was man of the match in the first half. The way, when he got the ball, he looked exciting, what you want to see from a United player. He put crosses in the box, good crosses as well in the box. And every time he got the ball, he just, he almost like, you wanted to get up your feet and he excited you, didn't he? And I think that was one thing that we've been missing, especially from last season. We've been missing that exciting play from the attack. Second half, I think there's a lot of contenders for second half. You could go with Rashford for his goal, but I personally think Angel Gomez was exciting. I mean, you could go with Mason Greenwood as well, but Angel Gomez, I think he showed a lot of creativity and a lot of promising signs that he could potentially be a future top-class player for Manchester United.
I agree with the Daniel James for me. I think it was more of what he did off the ball. Every time any of our players have picked it up, he's always on the run. Like I said, we didn't really have that ability to always pick him up. Ashley Young did pick him up a couple of times off it, but he gave us something different, and it was exciting and something we definitely don't have enough of on the flanks at Manchester right now. Marcus Rashford playing more central. We're not really going to get that enough out wide with him going central. And Jesse Lingard was good in the first half, winning 4 out of 4 of his tackles, of course. Pressing from the front, winning the ball back. But Daniel James for me, just for that exciting factor. Going into the second half, Greenwood, he's running into that box with the ball at his feet with absolute confidence. And he's so unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to do. He can go on his left, he'll hurt you. He goes on his right. He's both-footed. We've seen that shot obviously deflect onto the post off the keeper as well. He came close and he was picking up some great positions and giving options for the likes of Pogba, Mata and Gomez. Gomez second, close to me. I think Greenwood just edged it towards the end of the game, but Gomez second for me. The positions he's picking up, he seems really mature for a young lad.
I think first half it's unanimous. Daniel James, he's probably the most exciting forward we've signed personally in years. I'm more excited about this sign than actually I was for Anthony Martial, but that's another story for another day. But the second half was really interesting.
Quite a big story, that though.
No, well, there's a few reasons behind that, but for the second half, I think it's between Wan-Bissaka and Greenwood. For me, Greenwood does edge Wan-Bissaka, but Wan-Bissaka, I mean, he was 5 for 5 with his tackles, 1 key pass, and if we're honest, he is what we've been missing at right back. I'm not saying he was like a 10 out of 10 this game, but to see him bring the ball forward on the right-hand side and to see his ball distribution is better than we've seen in that position in a long time, and I'm excited to see what we're going to do going forward with him. But Greenwood, his positioning was phenomenal. He should be on the score sheet twice.
Yeah.
He missed a chance 6 yards out. I think that's just going to come with more chances. Next game against Leeds, I expect him to start. And I want to see how Wan-Bissaka links up on that right-hand side.
I think it's important, Damien, you mentioned Wan-Bissaka because he might go a bit unnoticed because he only played in the second half, 45 minutes. But his positioning, his tackles were brilliant. Something we haven't seen in our right-backs for a long time. And to have a 5 out of 5 succession tackle rate for 45 minutes, I think is just exceptional.
Yeah, it was impressive. And I think we were talking about him, picking up those positions, ready to make those tackles. And I think I forgot to mention Axel Tuanzebe, who was really good at doing that in the first half. Whenever there was a time for him to step out and show that aggressive sort of side to his game, whilst being very composed on the ball, he went out and he won the ball. He made sure that he was the winner in that challenge. And it's a very mature performance from Axel Tuanzebe in the first half. Stood out compared to Phil Jones, if I'm honest. And yeah, both of those young lads, Axel and Wan-Bissaka, impressing in that game.
What about you, Joe?
No, I agree with you, Daniel James, and I did like. I think he's running on the ball, and we'll get into this a bit more about who you think would work well with Daniel James. But I like to see that little attitude where he gave the defenders a headache, and sometimes United players might just, if they don't seem to break the defenders in the first 10-15 minutes, and their heads drop a bit, and they think this isn't going to be my day. Whereas Daniel James looked like he was just going to keep pushing, and that's what you need in the Premier League, because you're not going to score the goal straight away. He might become late into the second half. We know as United fans, we like to score late in the second half. We might be that case that Daniel James is that player with the right attitude, and you think he will keep going to the bitter end, and that's what was good about him. And in the second half, I agree with you about Greenwood. I did like the look of Andreas Pereira. I thought he was quite nice, but obviously that was in the first half. He was up there for me with Daniel James. He could be someone who works well in the midfield. I'd like to see more of him. But yeah, second half, Greenwood. I just hope that they get the time. Obviously, they will do in the pre-season, but it's the time that they get in the Premier League as well.
Of course.
That's important, man. Maybe Ollie might leave it for the Carabao Cup now, isn't it? Sorry, I keep always forget the name. Is
it's no longer the Carling Cup.
Change it too much. In my head, it's still the Carling Cup.
Yeah, man. And that's where Fergie used to use the youngsters quite well in that cup and bring them through to the Premier League. So let's just say, if that's what Ollie wants to do, Carabao Cup might be ours this year.
Europa League as well.
Europa League.
So in terms of I know this will be a lot on the tongues of fans. How would you guys assess the performance of Paul Pogba in the second half?
Do you want to go?
Sure. I think everyone's going to agree that I think his technical ability is above everyone else in that midfield.
Yeah.
There are times, you can even see in that game, there was times when the guy just doesn't seem like he's bothered about running or chasing the ball. And it's not only in this game. I would have said it about him at the end of last season too. There's a sense of laziness amongst a lot of the players, but with Pogba, there wasn't, and it's only a preseason game, but there wasn't that want to win the ball sometimes. Now, whenever he did have the ball, I'm not sure what the stats are for his passing accuracy, but anytime he looked for making a pass, he always did it, in my mind. I don't remember there was a single time when he lost the ball, but, I mean, he didn't stand out as a player, man of the match at all, but I don't know if you guys feel differently about that at all.
I do think it's more of his style, the way, when you think of, obviously how hard he works. That a lot of the time, I do think it's not about how much running he's making. I think it's about, in his head, he needs to be picking up better defensive positions. Okay. But if you look at his style and what he did well at Juventus, and everyone loves to rave about what he did at Juventus, and loads of people haven't actually watched him enough at that time. If you look at today, the positions he's picking up, he was never really that explosive sort of, player who wins the ball back and makes things happen. It's more about, picking up those balls into those positions. He had Pirlo threading the ball in there. We haven't got anyone who's willing to create, and that's why I do like having someone like Jimmy Garner in that midfield that's going to progress the ball.
Right, next game is obviously what you want to see in the next game. Is there anything you want to see, the partnerships or anything you want? Because obviously today was one half 11 men, second half and complete new 11 men. Is there different partnerships you want to see?
I think one thing that would be curious for United fans to see is the link-up play between maybe Wan-Bissaka and Dan James on the right-hand side, if they play on the right-hand side. And also, if Dan James plays, maybe an extra bit of creativity, for example, from Paul Pogba. And because Paul Pogba is one of those players that can make passes down the line, that Dan James can run through, it'd be interesting to see how Dan James performs when he gets the service that's required for him on the left, even when he plays, really.
Perfect.
Mine's more on the Paul Pogba, Daniel James sort of thing again. I just, every single time I see him make that run off the ball in that first half, I'm like, absolutely love Paul Pogba to be there, to pick some of those passes out, and that is something I do want to see in the next game.
I really want to see what Dan James can do on the right-hand side next game. I was saying at halftime when Wan-Bissaka came on, it would have been really cool to see how he would link up with whoever's on the right-hand side. But I think we were able to see how Wan-Bissaka does defensively really well, but there's no right winger for him to properly connect to. Or at least it didn't seem that way. So my next thing is I'm going to see how Wan-Bissaka does offensively, whether he's going to be able to find someone, if we play a 4-2-3-1 and we're able to get someone like Dan James on the right-hand side, start to Chong, I want to see how he'll connect offensively.
Indeed. Leeds United next, and we'll be here for it with a watch-along on Stretford Paddock. Hit subscribe, and Joe is in Perth, Australia. Not me, sadly. But he'll be doing a fan cams for all the Australian fans down there, so make sure you stick around. Stretford Paddock is the place to be. Have a lovely afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you're watching. United won 2-0 in their first pre-season game against Perth Glory.